Hello everyone, welcome to BeginnersCPP.com's continuing tutorial series on learning how to program in C++. Today we are going to be talking about, this is lesson 18, I believe. And today we are going to be talking about functions. And the reason we are going to be talking about functions is because they are probably the only way going forward that you are going to be handling data. Now, one of the things that we've kind of run into is we have to use while statements to create loops, to force you, or not force users, but to force our program to repeat stuff over and over again. And a lot of the time, when we have all that information in main, we get these big pieces of main. Main can become a few hundred lines long. And I've just paused the video to kind of circle back and just show that sometimes we do get into these very crazy long sort of programs that they I think the longest program I've had in a video has been about 60 lines, but sometimes you guys are going to get school projects or whatever. They're going to be like a couple hundred lines, so it's going to be pretty intense for you. Sorry, last video just finished rendering. Good timing as always. And alright, so let's talk about what functions do. So a lot of the time we'll have a while loop, and the while loop's going to contain all this logic that gets repeated over and over again. And functions are kind of our way of getting around that. So let's assume that a couple episodes back, we created that case logic calculator, if you guys remember it, right? So let's assume that we just want to make a very simple function. And what this function is going to be is it's going to add two numbers, and it's going to give us the result of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to type int. Now this first, actually let me do it like this, add numbers, and we're going to type int x and int y, just like that. And we're going to do a simple return, and we're going to do x plus y, just like that. Simple. So we're just sending back the value of x plus y. And let me break down what each part of that is. So int, the first one, is the return type, meaning that's what's being passed back or returned to main. And you can call a function from another function. So if I called this from another function, it would return me back to the function that called it. So that's why I didn't want to say it returns back to main, because it doesn't necessarily. It returns to where it was called from. Add numbers. That's the name of our function. Now the next sort of piece of this is the parentheses, right? And the parentheses are our arguments. Contained within that is our argument list. And in this case, our argument list is int x and int y. And I'm just going to put these in parentheses. That's our actual argument list. Because in this case, we're getting in two integers, right? Named x and y respectively. And then you have the scoping brackets. And those are the same as when we use them in a for loop or whatever else. It just means that everything in between here and here is going to be processed as a block. All right, so that's how that breaks down. Now let's come into here, and we're going to do int a equals 5, comma b equals 7. And we're just going to do a cout, and we're going to say the total of a plus b equals And in this case, I'm just going to call straight to the function. I'm going to go add numbers a comma b. And this is definitely over-engineered because honestly, I could just do like this and go a plus b, and that's completely valid. But the point is, in this case, I'm showing you this as an easy example. They do get you can make a function as complicated as you want it to. You can send it 20 arguments if you want and do all kinds of crazy stuff in here. So in this case, I'm going to just output that. And in this case, you can see the total of 5 plus 7 equals 12. So what actually happens here? And I did a couple of things so you guys would notice. Now, I named these variables a and b here, but they're called x and y here. And the reason why is you can rename these anything you want. They don't have to be a and b. And that's something I see really commonly amongst new programmers, is they try to keep the name the same in the function. And sometimes that can get confusing. A lot of the time in objects and functions, you'll see people name stuff with an underscore before it. And I don't really like doing that. I find the underscores a little hard to read sometimes. So I just like to, give them their own unique name. And A and B and X and Y are horrible examples. And again, I'm only using those because they're just generic. You can name these num, or you can name them value, or whatever you want. In this case, I've just used A and B. So the next thing I want you guys to notice is, actually, you know what? I'm going to walk you guys through this with the debugger, and I'm going to set a breakpoint right about here. So at this point, we've gone ahead and we've made our numbers, but we haven't done anything with them yet. So we run that local Windows debugger, and it pops out here. And let me go like that. We're going to have this over here. So as you can see, we're going to scrunch that over a little and move that over because I don't care about the call stack. And as you can see, we have b equals 7, a equals 5. Perfect, right? And the next line that's about to run is this C outline. And that C outline is going to pass to add numbers. So when we hit step into, I'm hoping that it brings us here and doesn't send us into IO stream. So if we hit step into, it brings us up here to add numbers, right? And when we hit step over, it's going to bring us to this return statement. But we can see that the value of x and y is equal to 5 and 7 respectively. So a is equal to 5. So in this case, we can see that this x is correlating to a, which means that the first number passed into this argument is the first number up here. Equally, the second number passed in correlates to the second number, and the third and fourth and fifth and so on. If we were to pass that many, it always goes in order. So the order that you pass in variables has to match the order that you take them in up here. And that goes with types as well. If I'm sending through an int and a double in that order, this has to be int and double. I can't then do double and int. So when this line executes, as we can see, it's going to be the next one, that passes back, actually it executes, and then it passes back here. And as you can see, we actually get this thing that says add numbers returned. And that's the value that was returned from our function. Older versions of Visual Studio didn't do this. They didn't tell you the returned value, and they just sort of thought it was implied. So now that that value's been returned, the rest of this line can complete. So when we hit step over, we then get that value output. And just as fast as that add numbers returned value is gone. It's completely gone from memory. And we can then finish out the program by hitting step over a few times, and we we end at that point. And I've managed to get myself into another thing there, but here we are. So we I wanted to show you guys that because it's very important that you understand that these values are being maintained as they're passed in, but their names are not being maintained. Another thing that I want to introduce you guys to really quickly is that this has to be declared before main. It doesn't necessarily have to be fully filled out before main, but it has to be declared. So if I move that below main like that, then I run this, that doesn't work. It tells us there's build errors, and it tells us that add numbers, which is used right here, is not found, and it highlights line 16 for us to show us that there's an error on that line. So it tells us, right here, not found, line 16, column 1. We can ignore the column 1. But in this case, add numbers isn't found because it doesn't show up before main. And what we can do to get around that is we can use what's called a function prototype, because some people, I mean, obviously we're going to get into functions that are a bit larger than this. We're going to get into stuff that's more complicated than return x plus y. So a lot of people, they like to get things set up in main first because they like to understand the flow of their program and how things are going to go from main and travel around, right? So let's move this this comment down here to before where we use our add numbers function. And I'm going to show you guys what a function prototype is. And a function prototype is a very straightforward thing. We do the return type, so we do int add numbers, and we tell the compiler what it's going to be expecting for arguments. So we're going to type int. We don't need to name them here. If we do name them, it does not error. As far as I know, at least it used to not error. So I can do int x, int y there, and it's no big deal. But in general, I just put the types. And it's followed by a semicolon, rather than followed by brackets and then telling it what to do. So this way it's before main, it's one line, and we run this, and that's it. So a lot of the time people do this because I don't want to say it's rare that you're going to have a single function, but a lot of the times, especially in larger projects, you're going to have tens, if not hundreds of functions that you can call on to do work, that needs to be repeated multiple times in multiple files across multiple scopes. And, being able to prototype these before main is going to be important. And we're going to get into header files in a little bit. But for now, I don't tend to use function prototypes, but a lot of teachers and a lot of classes really want you to use them. So this is the proper way to go about doing that. And I'll just add here, function prototype. Now, here's what I want you to do. I want you guys to create a function that allows two numbers to be sent to it. I want you to multiply them together inside the function, output them in the function, and then I want you to return the value to main, and then add 5 to the total of it, and then output that as the adjusted total. So that's going to be your homework. Let me write that up. Homework: create a function that allows two variables to be sent to it, multiply them together, return the outcome to main, add 5, and, multiply them together, output the results, return the outcome to main, add 5, and re-display the outcome. Perfect. So alright, that's going to be the homework. This has been lesson number 18. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I will see you all next time. Like, share, subscribe, and tell friends.